Hi, this is Scott, and I am going to go through the curriculum component. So Learning Engagement 3, and we can see here the elements that are involved. And what I decided to do is to take a look at Section C and look at the curriculum for all 4 components and look at the standards. And I wanted to break this down into a process where I use a tool that is more engaging to brainstorm and look at larger concepts. I'm using a program called FreeMind. And FreeMind is free. And what it allows a person to do is make a mind map. And it runs on Windows, Linux, and Mac. And I use it to take notes. For instance, if I go over here and look at a workshop I was at for the Deming Institute, what I did is I took the notes in a mind map form and exported them out, and it turns it into an HTML file. So I have a chronological listing of the notes from an event. Or if I'm planning something out, I can create elements and so on and so forth. So what I did is created an organization with all the elements from each one of the standards. So here's everything from 1. And then I posed questions. Now, you don't have to be able to read all the details here, but the idea is simply when I make a new module, for instance, I hit the Tab key, you can see a new module down here, this would be the thing. If I hit Tab again, I create a child, and I can then continue to make things like this. I can also go in and delete these things. Now, what's nice about this is when students, or myself in this case, are trying to look at bigger elements and organize, I like to use a visual means that allows me to simplify and expand and contract elements I want. So I click here, I can contract it, and I can expand it. Now, when I said I took notes, when I go to File and Export, I can save it as an HTML file, and what that will look like is this. And if I click on this, I'm seeing the same content that you just saw on the mind map, but I can reveal or conceal the components that are listed in here. And again, this might seem overwhelming and a lot of content, but the idea is that I could copy and paste the HTML into my website. So if I'm organizing notes and looking at elements, this is just, it publishes it instantly to HTML. I don't have to do any heavy lifting. Well, now let's take a look at Standard 1. And what I did is I looked at the challenges and questions, and for all 4 standards, I decided to have the point of view of a teacher. And the reason being is that I am one. I'm not planning on being a site visitor. That's not my intention here in the training. But I wanted to take on the mantle of the teacher and see what the standards would mean to me. And I want to highlight a few things. So what I did is I highlighted out the questions and some of the concerns I have for each one of the standards. So I'll just start with this. Collaborative planning and reflection ensures that all students have an overview of student learning experience. I want to know, how is this carried out? Are there surveys done? When? Before, during, after? Is this at an IB level for specific courses for the teachers? Furthermore, collaborative planning and reflection incorporate differentiation of students' learning needs and styles. Again, this is something that was really intriguing to me. And I'm actually going to zoom in here, and you can see how this works. You can zoom in and out. It's just Java that makes this program work. It's pretty slick. Is this information gathered by each individual teacher, or are there activities done at the higher levels? Like, is this a school level base where all the students go through a process, or are we doing this individually as teachers? And an example that I do is something I call the Yu-Gi-Oh! Personality cards. And what I have the students do is take a number of surveys, Myers-Briggs, multiple intelligences, shapes, what they mean. Then they fill out these surveys and they create a card. And the card itself allows them to type in the personality type, their multiple intelligences. Then I print these out and I use them for class activities, but it lets me know how they learn. So this is something I do, and teachers here at school really appreciate this, and many of them have copied this process. But I want to know, is the expectation here that it would be a systemic process at the school-wide level, or is each teacher on their own to figure that out? So I'm going to go back here, and So that was the main stuff I had. So challenges and questions, how does a teacher do this? How does the organization do it? I'd like to see examples. So that's standard 1. Standard 2, I highlighted. Now, again, I'll zoom in here on this. Written curriculum builds on students' previous learning experiences. That's a big one. Also, the written curriculum is available to the school community. Is that online? Is it paper? We are right now going through a process in our district from the Office of Civil Rights in the United States, where all students have to have equal access to information, whether they're blind or whatnot. And so even PDF files can be a problem because they're not fully compliant with the online readers. So what are the expectations? We have a federal law that we have to apply to, and we're changing our whole online publishing system to be compliant with this federal law. But what is IB's stance on that? And down to here, the curriculum builds upon the students' ideas. How is that differentiated to each student? How is that tracked? If it's student-centered, again, how do we do that? So the question and concern I have that's kind of wrapped in there is, what's the process? Let's go down here to the, whoops, let me zoom out here. Ooh. And you can see by just clicking on the element, it contracts or expands. Written curriculum identifies the knowledge, concepts, skills, and attitudes to be developed over time. I have a call for examples. What does this look like at other schools? Are we doing it the most efficient way? Is there a way we could be better as a school, I as a teacher? And one more from this section. Written curriculum incorporates relevant experiences for students. Is this achieved through activities at the beginning of the course, unit, or year? And what, again, is the teacher's responsibility in doing this and working toward that? So again, written curriculum and questions and concerns about how that's conducted. I guess the overall big one for me is equal access, because we are dealing with that at our school. I'm curious about that. Standard 3, teaching and learning. And I've highlighted a few things in here. Teaching and learning builds upon what students know and can do. How does one demonstrate this in a day-to-day activity or activities of the school? I know I can do this with my kids in class, but again, the IB expectation, what does this look like? And that just takes quite a bit to do this, but again, on a day-to-day basis, I can find out where kids are at one day and then the next day come in and pick up where we left off. Furthermore, teaching and learning incorporates a range of resources, including information technologies. What are some examples of the ranges of tools that people are using? A big theme through this whole activity that I'm doing as I'm talking is that I want to see what other people are doing. I want to look at role models or models that IB has endorsed or looks at as models that people can do. For example, the state of Washington has education technology standards, and what's really great about this is I helped to write these in 2009, and what our team was really proud of is we have the standard, we have the evidence of learning, but this is the part that we really, really got into, is that we wanted to show basic level and 21st century level evidence. Like, what would this look like in a science classroom? What would this look like in social studies? And at the bottom here, you can see a key for the different colored letters and examples in here. And I really love this layout, and I wonder if we could see more of this through IB. And so that's the question and concern I have for what does this look like? For instance, teaching and learning use a range of varieties of strategies. Okay, wow, it's a big one. Examples of these strategies. And again, is each teacher expected to be doing this all by themselves, or do they, when they plan as a department, have certain strategies that they use? And I'm going to jump down here to teaching and learning engages students to reflect on how, what, and what they're learning. Do they do this in some kind of portfolio? How do they articulate this? Can we see examples? My students have online blogs with edublogs.org, and they post all their work there and reflections there so we can see the growth. And some students I have for a number of years, and it's quite a collection of work over time. So I want to see what else is out there, and again, have IB take the charge on that. So some of the material there. Standard 4, lots of good stuff here. And let's focus right in on the school uses a range of strategies and tools to assess the learning, student learning that is. Examples. What is this range of tools? And I go back to here, you have different activities. Imagine this type of layout showing a range of tools and when to use a particular tool. Training for teachers revolving around this. And is there a deliberate choice on when to use a specific tool throughout the department, school? And again, so at what level are these decisions made? And let's jump down to here. School analyzes assessment data to inform teaching and learning. When, how much time is dedicated to this? I do what I do as a teacher, but if I'm expected to be at a certain level of quality in the IB system, what does that look like? So these are the questions and concerns that are just really floating around on here. And I have up here in this question, the school has systems for recording student progress aligned with the assessment philosophy of the programs. Portfolios, examples again, what does that look like? And to wrap up my presentation here, I'm going to go down to wrap up, and let's zoom in here. And you can see, I go here, I'm actually going to go down to 150%. And by the way, this whole experience with using FreeMind, I felt really strongly about using this tool because it really helps my students brainstorm, organize their thoughts and ideas in a visual way. And one other thing I didn't show is that you can grab these things and drag them, and when it highlights on the particular side, top, left, right, whatever, it moves it around. So I can go like that. I can go like here up toward the top, but this won't because I can only go left and right. But I can promote or demote any of these elements anytime I want. And like this element, I could drag up here. I could shuffle these around if I wanted. All right, well, let me get to it here. Wrap up. What the amount, let's see, student-centered elements, whoops, let me get back up here. Student-centered elements throughout the standards are awesome. And I mean this in the full definition of the word. Staggering even, like just the sheer magnitude of student-centered and how much energy it takes to differentiate down to the individual. The amount of time and energy, I've said could, would, or should take years to really develop a system that works well. I'm looking for examples. How do people do this efficiently? We all can do it and build our models, but does a teacher have to be teaching for 5 to 10 years before they can really inhabit some of these best practices? Where does a teacher start? And in the United States, we have teachers burning out within 5 years, and many people leave the profession because it's just overwhelming. But how do we break down the elements? How is that done so that I, as a teacher, can integrate a lot of what IB is expecting, but piece by piece? Just like I go to a training and I'm given a lot of information, what's best about the trainings for IB is that I have practical practitioners saying, okay, don't try to eat the whole elephant, bite off one piece at a time. Just for the record, I don't eat elephants, but you get the idea. How does the teacher manage this development process without burnout? I just said that. And what could IB develop to help break down the steps and create a powerful student-centered experience? I'm excited about working in the training system, a trainer for IB for the film classes and maybe some other technology classes, to have these discussions, show what I've developed over time, have other people show what they have developed, and share out that material. So wrapping all this up, I've talked about the 4 standards. I've talked about concerns and questions I have. I've wrapped that up with what I think is the most important component as a teacher in these examples. And I've used FreeMind to demonstrate how I took the content and threw it into the system and managed that. And the last piece is just when you look at content in certain formats like this, it can be staggering for the mind to try to process. When you look at it in different layout, that may or may not be a better process. But by being able to interact with this and expand and contract the content, I can limit what I'm looking at one thing at a time. And that I found to be really helpful when I'm doing projects like this. Well, thank you for watching, and take care.